Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Planet Coaster. Welcome to Arctic Blast. And we're going to go and build a food court. First of all, I'm going to plant some trees around the station just to make it look a bit more festive and put some stones in it as well. Now, this is obviously not a lot of scenery, and I will go back and do some more scenery a bit later on in the series. But I'd rather be focusing on the buildings and the rides at the moment. So there's that. I put some smoke down in the chimneys so that the stations look a bit more active and just give them that little bit more life. I still haven't got the trains running because there's no passengers to use them at the moment. And I'll get rid of these blocks which are floating in midair because that was silly. First of all, we play a part with just building a thing, ground up around it, but because of the not clipping, the fact that it just stops near an object, so I just delete the path instead and move the door down because that is a silly place to have a door all flying up there. Notice that this is missing some gingerbread, so I put the gingerbread on the bottom of the station as well. And move the other door down before carrying on. Now in this episode I'm going to be making a food court, so lots of food shops, and as you'll find out I make a big hash of it. It took a long time to find signs in the menus. Flitting backwards and forwards between the scenery and the building tools, which I have cut out of the episode, so don't worry about spending time looking through all of that. I continued using gingerbread throughout this episode. I'm thinking of possibly doing a couple of buildings without gingerbread. But trying to keep a festive look about them. I haven't enjoyed making like sweet houses. I know a lot of people decorate gingerbread with lots of sweets and that kind of those kind of toppings and stuff. I don't really like those looks, so I quite like the fact I'm just going with gingerbread and frosting rather than adding all the sweets. I did add a couple of sweets to one of the buildings later on. Ended up not liking them, so taking them off. Again, you'll see that in a later video. So I'm just sorting out the stations first of all, and just getting paths ready to be built on. Not really much else. I mean, I don't connect these paths up to any other part of the park because I've just spent ages doing it, and I don't know where my paths are going to go just yet, apart from these station paths, which will be where they are now, and then I'll join up somehow later on. Just making sure that all the bits touch the ground, because all the stations are in different areas apart from the starting one. Again, adding a bit of grass to show that it was a bit, so the area is a bit worn compared to the other area, because that's what happens when you use a door. You wear down the path. This one's a bit tricky because sometimes the path doesn't like you building where you want it. It has to attach at the end somewhere. This one I do join up because it is close enough to the rest of the park to put in. Add some fairy lights to this, and put it there. Right. Add some street lamps. Now, sorry for the quietness there. I got a bit confused because this is episode 3. I've actually recorded a few more episodes, not the commentaries for them. So I'm just looking back at the park going, Oh, but then I realised I haven't actually done the videos on those buildings yet. So yeah, a bit of a brain fart moment there. But so yeah, I'm building a food court. Now I haven't really built many buildings before in Planet Coaster, and so this is my first sort of multi shop building that I've tried. I've tried to make it not a square building. It is blocky, but I've tried to not make it square. Now, one thing I do find hard about Planet Coaster is the path system. Now, ideally, I would like to have the square paths in here, but I find the square paths really hard to attach to anything else, and it's just unfortunate because it ends up looking messy with the paths trying to get to all the shops. Uh, as you'll see later on in the video when I get around to making the path. So I've added spaces for some shops or some food places, and some whole places for the toilets to go, because while there's about food and drink, you need toilets to go with them. Obviously got rid of the flatten the snow so that the paths and things can get in there. Just add different restaurants because you don't want the same, well, I say restaurants, fast food outlets, because you don't want the same thing. Gives your customers different different places to go. Now I don't like how the archways don't really fit. Things I don't like about Planet Coaster is the grids. I think the 2 meter grid is too big. Well, the 4 meter can sometimes be far too big, but the 2 meters I think either too big or too small. I think they should be like the up and down in smaller increments, up to, because they can move in 25 centimeters. So I'm not sure why why they have to don't have the same as left and right in increments, because it would be far more helpful that the up and down is the same as the left and the right, left and right is the same as up and down. Now I cut here to me finishing off the roof, because it took me quite a while to find the signs, and I just added the appropriate signs to the shop above. You will see it in either later in this video or in another video what it ended up looking like. So I just didn't want the roof to be flat, and I know this is not the most interesting roof, but I just wanted to use up make a bit of two different areas of roof, so a flat roof and a raised roof, so it's not as boring to look at the whole building. Now with gingerbread, it's a hard building material. It took me a while to plug this gap in the house, so it was a bit tricky, but we got there in the end. So I thought this flat roof is looking a bit flat, so what should I build? A tower. I think a tower would be a good idea. Just like a princess tower. I was originally thinking a clock tower, but I went for the princess style tower. And I think I'm going to use that clock tower idea to make a clock tower in gingerbread later on in the series. Sort of like a Big Ben style clock, but obviously not as good looking, but definitely tastier. So here I've made some ramparts to add to this balcony area, just to add that sort of castle location that the tower sort of needs. With baked goods, you don't really need a good defensive structure because you can't provide it, but it just looks the part. So adding again, this duplicating this took a while, and I again don't understand why. Sometimes I feel like you can't copy stuff. Other times it's really easy. Like on the second one, did it fine, no issues. But the first one, I think it might have been because it's connected to the building, but I don't know. It just didn't copy. So again, I deleted it so I could just make a copy of it easily, and made sure they were uniform. And again copied and pasted so that it would be the ramparts all around this flat roof area. Again, extra contrast with the other part of the building. So it's got this sort of two-tone style building. I quite like the fact that it's a half a castle and then the other half is just some regular roof. I don't know. You probably don't like it, but I quite like that. I find it the two styles sort of a fusion building. That's what gingerbread is all about. Not sticking to any particular style. It's really just doing what you fancy, what looks good. In my opinion, which is this. Trying to make it a little bit frosting on it, just to give that extra. I know I put them in between all the pieces. It just gives that extra interest to look at the building. Those extra features, just to liven things up a bit. And then we add on frosting to the diagonal before putting on windows. No doors in this one, as we've got the what's it called? The archways providing the doors for us. So I didn't feel like a door would be necessary, but I do believe the windows were necessary. Well, the icing windows. And I didn't use them on every single thing. I used them not sparingly, but every other, because don't want it too repetitive throughout. And then added a bit of garnish on the squiggles on the windows. Now I know my windows aren't level, and I don't want them to be actually, because they are gingerbread. They're meant to look a bit higgledy-piggledy. So yeah, I do like the fact that they're quite randomly placed, which works well with my my building style, the way I make things, which is a bit higgledy-piggledy, a bit hit and miss. So I then added some extra bit of flourish with a nice flag on top, because every castle part needs a flag. I then added these here, but I didn't keep the ones on top as I didn't like them. I accidentally deleted the train tractor. Yeah, I didn't keep the ones on top as I didn't like them. I quite like the two banners and the one flying. I just changed the ground a little bit around, make it snow, just brushing it up because I did flatten it all with a bit of snow drifts in the area. And that's it. Thank you.